Tim Petrowich here for Dateline Marion, and we're speaking again with Marion head football coach Kerry Martin, and we get to talk again about another win, and pretty impressive win at that, at least for a couple of phases of the game, but 30-0 over Althoff last Friday night. And let's talk about the defense, because they were spectacular Friday.
Yeah, they played really well. You know, Coach Dunning and his staff, Matt Warner, Coach Wimberly, they've done a great job all year having our guys ready and game planning. And, you know, we were excited to have 9 starters back on defense from the first week you and I talked.
Right.
And we really felt like that could be a real strength for us, and it certainly has been good for us. They have played really well. You know, the only big obstacles were Rochelle week 1 and of course Highland, but Highland's an obstacle for everybody. And even in that game, you know, a 21-7 halftime score I think it was, and had, you know, the offense put them in some bad situations. So
right.
I've been real pleased. I think they've just done a great job, and a lot of kids contributing, and they just continue, I think, to get better.
Well, and you talked about that opening game. Not only that, but they scored before the defense actually got on the field too, because they ran the opening kickoff back. So
that's true.
That's a little deceiving
as
well.
That's right.
And I mean, it wasn't 48 minutes for the defense, but probably 45. I know that that first couple of possessions or first couple of plays where they broke off some long plays, but penalties fortunately called them back. But you talked about that it was maybe a good problem, that they were a little over aggressive, and you had to reel them back in a little bit.
Yeah, we were just getting out of position. We were kind of breaking down our assignments and over penetrating behind the line and chasing people and not staying back for counter, and it was just overly aggressive. And you know, that's a problem you hopefully you can fix. I mean, I would rather a team be overly aggressive and reel it back than be under aggressive, because if they're under aggressive, sometimes you cannot get them to throw that switch. So I thought it was a good problem to have, but a problem that needed to be addressed, and we got it straightened out. And once they settled in and started staying square and playing their assignments, I think they played a lot better.
You won the turnover battle. You collected 3 turnovers and didn't give the ball up. You had, I did the math, they had 43 yards in the first half. At one point, with about 2 minutes to go before they started their last drive, right after Jonathan Tucker got the fumble recovery for a touchdown, they get the ball back. At that point, they had 17 yards total offense in the game.
Yeah, they had some quarterback center exchange problems, and it caused some balls to lose in the backfield, and our guys were making some tackles for loss. I think we had 10 tackles for loss on the game, which was quite a few. So yeah, those negative yards begin to add up, and then they started having to throw the ball, and we got some sacks, and so any yardage they had accumulated really got wiped out pretty quickly. And yeah, I mean, it's I wouldn't say you're ever comfortable against Belleville Althoff, but it was nice to have, for the first time in many years, we finally felt good in the fourth quarter, midway late fourth quarter, that we were going to get this thing, get a victory there. And by the way, beautiful new stadium there.
Oh yeah, it was really nice.
It's a great
lights for photography.
You know, talking to Coach Turner before the game, I mean, it is a beautiful facility, but I think it'll take a while to develop the mystique of the old field.
Oh, sure.
And I talked about when I was at Carterville, I coached at the old field, and now they have a new beautiful facility, but the old field had a mystique about it that was pretty awesome. So, you know, yeah, there's a lot of tradition that goes into a stadium, and sometimes a new stadium is, you know, beautiful, but it takes a while to build that mystique up a little bit and that tradition there. But I'm sure they'll do it, knowing Althoff. So, but it's a nice place to play.
Do want to talk about this, because he doesn't get very much publicity, but really thought it was a very consistent and solid game, and did a lot for you, the game that Tyson Steckland had. I mean, and we talk about the field goal, but you know, I think he had 3 punts in the game, and all of them were 38, 39 yards, and he punted away from their receivers, and he had several touchbacks kicking too.
Had a great year. He has had a great year, extra point wise. I want to go. Don't quote me. I think he's missed 2 all year, but hit a field goal, 38-yarder, and hit it with extra on it.
Right.
His
and
kick
right down the middle too.
Yeah, he's put a number of balls in the end zone on touchbacks for kickoffs. He's punted the ball well for us. You're right, just steady, so steady it's sometimes easy to miss how important he is to our football team, field position wise. Yeah, you know, you worry about scoring a touchdown, then getting a run back on a kickoff. And when he kicks that thing in the end zone, you breathe a sigh of relief. They've got to start on the 20-yard line now. And it's just a good feeling. I mean, he's just a great kid. He's a dual sport guy. He's an outstanding soccer player, and he's willing to do the time to practice with us and practice with soccer and make that commitment. And we are so glad he came back out and played, because losing David, we lost a big weapon when David Fletcher left and graduated. And we lost a punter and a kicker, but here comes Step right in and do a great job for us.
Now, it's my fault for not doing the homework, but I was trying to think, and I didn't get online and look to check, but do you remember the last time that Marion shut out its opponent? Was it Normandy when they played here?
Maybe. Might have been Harrisburg the last time. Somebody told me we played Harrisburg the last time we played Harrisburg, week 3. That was a shutout. What would that have been? 5 years ago. So it's been a while though. It's been 4, 5, 6 years since we've had a shutout that I remember. Yeah.
So very, very impressive performance.
Yeah.
And the offense. The offense wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. They did some things too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there were moments, but it was again just. There were moments in our tight stuff that were good. There were moments in our spread stuff that were good. But it would be like the tight would be good for a bit and then stop. Then the spread would be good for a bit and then stop. We were okay in both. Not, as you said, great in either one. But it wasn't. The film isn't bad. I mean, it's just mistakes here and there. Just I'll tell you what. Althoff's defense came to play. We can sit here and talk about our problems on offense, but I thought their defense played very well. I think their offense obviously struggled, but their defense, I thought, played well against us. They played good coverage in the secondary. We tried to do some things and create some big plays, and they covered them. I thought their kids up front played well, so give a lot of credit to the Althoff Crusaders for giving us a good match on their defensive side. But we'll take it. We had 23 points on offense, plus the fumble recovery on defense that Jonathan Tucker ran in for a touchdown, so not a bad night's work.
And they're young. We talked about that. They're young, and you can tell, I think, through the course of the season, the improvement that they're making.
Well, and their schedule is brutal. I mean, everyone knows that. You look at who they've played, and it's a tough schedule. And when you take a young team against that schedule, that's not a good combination. And so, I'm sure they'll learn from it and get better. They've got some talent on that field. You can just tell maybe it just wasn't quite ready yet, but. I know they'll be back. It's a very tradition-rich program, and they've got a great history of winning for many, many, many years. So I'm sure we'll have a number of battles with them in the future.
Turn our attention now to Centralia. Last conference road game of the year, going up to their place. Marion has not had the greatest success up in Centralia over the years, in the last few years, especially at their new stadium. But this is a team that's not the same as it has been. They've lost some players. Of course, Javon Williams Jr. is not there anymore after being there for about 65 years, and a couple other kids.
Yeah.
But I think you can see with Centralia as well that they had a tough opening schedule, and they've started to turn things around now, and they beat the Althoff team that you guys played last week.
They did, and they almost beat Carbondale. Had a very competitive game against Carbondale, so they're not someone you can look past. They're young also. They've got a very talented running back. Their quarterback has shown the ability to throw the ball and get the ball down the field, throws the long ball really well. So it's not something we can look past. We know that we got to play well. I say this every week. Our success by committee has to be a full team, all in, 11 guys every snap effort. And if we don't get that, we're going to struggle. Whether it's Carbondale, Cahokia, Highland, or Centralia, it doesn't matter. So, look, Bobby's a great head football coach, and they have a very good coaching staff. And they'll have a game plan. They'll play well against us. They'll play tough against us. We always have tough ball games. So we expect a battle on Friday.
So help me figure this out. We've talked about this all year, the way this football season is going.
Right.
Because you look at Althoff, or you look at Centralia, rather, and they beat Althoff, and they play Carbondale to a touchdown. And then they turn around and they lose to Cahokia 53-0.
Right.
And none of this really makes sense. And we've talked about it all year with a whole bunch of teams.
Yes, it makes no sense. There is and and if I'm repeating myself, forgive me, but there is a danger in score comparison. And we all do it. We all try to measure future success or season success by comparing scores. Well, we beat this team by this much, and they beat that team by that much. That means. No, it doesn't mean anything. I guess I used to think it did. I really struggle, and I can give you so many scenarios right now on our schedule where teams beat teams that shouldn't have beat teams that did. I mean, it is crazy. And I don't know if it's just the 2018 season or this is the future of high school football. I don't know the answer, but it is very difficult. That's why we just decided as a program about 3 weeks ago to just focus on the next game. You know, we're trying to play off this conference championship, and if we can beat this team, it doesn't make any sense. So bottom line is, I tell our kids, we always have goals every year. I said the only goal we have right now is beating Centralia. Last week it was beating Althoff, and I mean that is absolutely it. And then at the end of those 9 games, we're going to take a look at where we're at, and if we're qualified, if we're whatever. But you're right. It makes no sense to me. And I have seen Centralia on film. I saw them against Althoff, and they did a lot of good stuff. So what happened last week, I can't answer that. But I know that they're well coached. They've got some talented kids, and we better come to play.
I looked to check and see if there was a full moon last week because all 3 conference games were shutouts, and I don't know if that's ever happened in a long time or not.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the strangest things because you just never know. And you've been one to talk about football being about matchups instead of about size and speed and all. It's about how you match up with the team you play.
Absolutely. And so Althoff and Centralia match up differently than Centralia and Cahokia. I mean, you got to look at what their strength is and what your strengths and weaknesses are, and if their strength is your weakness, you're in trouble. We've been in that situation. We've played teams where what we did well, they defended well, and what our weakness was their strength. And if you have that matchup and you can see it coming, you know you can be in trouble. I mean, it's football at every level is about matchups to me, and I see that more and more the longer I coach. And so whatever kind of matchup we get this week, we're hoping that we match up well, but until you play the game, you don't know.
That was what I was going to ask you. How do the Wildcats match up with Centralia?
We hope well, but I mean, there's, you know, it's one of those things you got to play the game sometimes to see, because film will only give you so much. It's going to take that kid versus this kid across the line of scrimmage, or that running back on that outside linebacker, that corner on that receiver, and sometimes until you play the game, you just don't know. I mean, it's kind of a guessing match, and we made preparations. We always absolutely find the best we can find on film of a team and say that's the version we're going to get. So we're ready for Centralia's best.
There was a time, probably not that long ago, when people would look at the schedule and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we got to go all the way to Centralia. 5 road games on the schedule, Centralia is the closest one.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy. And I know that old South 7 people tell me they used to dread the Centralia trip. And that is so funny now.
I know.
I mean, I can't even get comfortable on the bus going to Centralia. You know, I'm used to taking my shoes off and getting my game plan out, you know, and finalizing some things there and getting my mind right, getting my music in, right?
Yeah.
I can't do that. It's too short a drive. So
yeah, it's the only one that's not more than 2 hours.
I've got to have myself focused before I get on that bus. So yeah, it is so funny how you acclimate. I mean, we all do. I mean, it's you know, it seems like a long drive to St. Louis till you just get back from Florida.
Right.
If you just come back from Florida, St. Louis seems like a short drive. But if you've just driven 16 hours to Disney World, you're like, well, St. Louis is nothing. It's all about perspective. So you acclimate to your situation, and over time we've acclimated to our schedule. And yeah, long road trips, just even a 2-hour trip just seems like what we do. So a trip to Centralia doesn't sound that bad.
Yeah, and that should mean, by the way, with the great facility that they got up there and the short trip, it should mean that more than ever the Wildcat fans are there in mass.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, it's interesting that no matter how many we have there, we have great fan support. They're vocal and supportive and stay behind us. And so we're looking for a big crowd on Friday.
Injuries, how are we doing?
Josh Schmidt's still out. He gets some medical information this week, so we're hoping that he's going to be back with us maybe in a week or so. Don't know yet, but he is better, much better. So we're hoping to have him back soon. And outside of that, we've had a little flu bug last week. We seem to be okay right now, cross our fingers, and hopefully we'll be almost full strength on Friday.
All right, Friday night at Centralia, kickoff at 7 o'clock. This is Marion head football coach Kerry Martin for Dateline Marion. I'm Tim Petrowich.